Boom. Well, I'd say we're close enough to 9 o'clock. Good morning, Lavada. Thank you for joining me today.
You're welcome. Thank you for the friendly reminder.
I always do that on Thursday afternoon. I call it, by the way, have you checked your company calendar?
It's all linked together, but I mean, it's pretty convoluted if you look at it. It's about 15 different colors every day.
Well, you guys are all Apple users. I'm on a Google phone, so all my Google stuff
Yes.
works really easily. So it's
Oh, I
kind of
just can't.
cool.
I can't do it. I can't do it.
But so we talked yesterday. We have like 6 topics we're going to talk about today.
Mhm.
And for those of you who don't know Lavada, you are in, remind me, you're not in Pensacola. You're
Yes,
in
I'm Pensacola.
Pensacola.
Hmm.
And you are the top grossing agent in our entire company with over $500,000 in commission last year, and probably just around 50 transactions. And when you and I were talking yesterday about these issues that we're having, you'd have a very cool perspective, and it was, I just tell them the truth. I don't have time to mess with this shit. And
Nope.
the stuff that you guys come to us with is I'm thankful for, because you give me a purpose around, right?
Okay.
But some of the stuff you are dealing with batshit crazy people, really.
Yes.
And the other agents are just as problematic as we are.
Hmm.
So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, at least 5 topics, and we have time 6, because one came across my desk last night that was late.
Oh.
So here's one, and I'm going to leave agent names out of it, and you tell me with your experience how you would handle this. The listing agent is the seller. We get a successful offer. We go through closing. We go to do the walkthrough, and the house is not vacant. The
I
seller
would.
is,
I wouldn't have closed.
well, so the seller's still vacant. He's got his office computer set up. He says, no, we're not closed. We said, no, the contract says you have to be out of the house to walk through, and it has to be room swept clean. And he's
Correct.
got food in the refrigerator and all kinds of shit, right? And he refuses to get out. So we write him a demand letter, and we try to be diplomatic, because he's an agent, for God's sakes, right? And so he doesn't want to move out. So we had the scheduled walkthrough. The buyers are happy with the house, except for he's in it. And the next morning, closing's at 11 o'clock. He said he'd be out by 11. He didn't vacate by 11.
Hmm.
So what do you do then?
I wouldn't have closed.
Okay. See how she handles it? Just no
No.
bullshit.
No.
Fine. Get
No.
yourself out. We'll close.
Well, money motivates everyone. And the minute he has the money, he now has no motivation to get out.
Yep.
You have to find everybody's motivation, and everyone wants their money. Let's be honest. Everyone wants their money.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's the leverage we had. But anyway, we had already wired our money to close, expecting that he was going to be done.
Yeah.
He didn't do his yet. So he did it, and he still didn't vacate. So we called his attorney, and his attorney called him and said, hey, you need to vacate. You're in adverse possession.
Right.
And he still stayed in the house. So we gave him an extra hour till noon. And then we said, we're calling the sheriff. The sheriff will come and tell them, you are a squatter, get out. Right. But I think the way you handled the best, nope, we're not closing.
Well, and even if your buyer signs, technically title should not release funds until they have the buyer's permission. So at any point you could have called title, even if you've signed and said, withhold our funds, the seller's not vacated.
Yep.
Yep.
And
Because
he
I had
refused
the
to give
opposite before. I had a title company release our funds before we had even finished signing.
Oh, that's not good.
No.
This guy refused to give the keys until he got the money. That's not what our contract says.
No.
Contract said closing occurs when the title agent or the closing agent receives the funds,
Correct.
not the seller receives the funds.
Correct.
So he was wrong on so many fronts. And the worst part is he's a licensed real estate agent.
Yeah, but he probably started in this industry and only ever used a TC. He's never read the contract. He's never himself written a contract. Therefore, he doesn't even know what it says. That's my problem with new agents coming on and using TCs. You can't argue something you don't know because someone else fills it out for you. Let's be honest.
It's true.
You need to know how to write the contract. If you don't know how to write it, you can't represent your client the way you need to.
Yep, 100%. And just the fact that you guys are tuning in and listening to these stories of real life things that are going on is educating you more than probably years of experience, because you're hearing other people's problems.
Well, that's where all my experience comes from. I started in real estate October 1st of 2012. I'd never bought a house. I knew truly nothing about real estate. And I started as an admin assistant and I watched everybody else's crapshoot. And that's how I learned. I
Yep.
learned what could have been done, should have been done. I got the best teaching lesson ever because I didn't just come in as a licensed realtor. I was able to learn from everyone else. And you learn from everybody else's mistakes because when it
Right.
happens to you, you're already prepped. You already have this answer stored in your brain somewhere. It's
Yeah.
sitting in a brain cell, trust me.
You hit a nerve that your clients are relating to you, not your transaction coordinator. And you want that
Yes.
relationship because you want their past client business.
Correct. And
So
and how do
you've
you
got to be,
get that when your TC's been the one that talked to them? Listen, I went under contract on a house. I haven't heard from the agent since we went under contract. Okay.
yeah.
We just closed on another house. They had the buyer. We've not heard from the agent. We had to call the agent to find out when they were doing the final walkthrough. The TC does all the communication. Yep.
Wow.
Yes.
Needs to be
Yep.
said.
Nope. Hey,
Right.
I've got a third one that I had to chase them for 3 weeks for paperwork. Ask Sam. She's like, "You're missing this." I'm like, "I don't have it." Yep. It's a mess out here because people don't know what they're doing. They're trusting a TC.
One of my favorite things to do is because I have access to most of the realtor databases. If you're dealing with an agent who's really not responsive, call me. I like looking them up and
Mm-hmm.
I see what their transaction is. And like literally, it'll tell me what they've done last 12 months, year to
Yes.
date, last 3 years, last 5 years. And I'm shocked at how few transactions agents that are doing. They do one deal. They got one pending offer and it's ours. And
Mm-hmm.
we're wondering why they don't know what to do. And then
No.
you hit them with the complicating factors of FF and GG and showing agreements and all that.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have a clue.
No.
You know, they don't go
No.
to office meetings, they're not involved in anything. All right, so
Nope.
that's topic one. So if a seller won't move, you don't close.
No.
Only leverage you have, right?
Yep.
Uh, and you can always call the title company and say, don't release my money.
Mm-hmm.
Even the money's there. That's what it should be. It makes it easier if it's there. But that seller was just a jerk.
Yeah.
And we're dealing with a lot of jerks and we're dealing with a lot of bullies right now too. And that's going to come up next. Okay, this is a more of a business conversation, and you and I talked about this too. There's a house that's pending a lawsuit. I don't know the details of the lawsuit, something with the HOA. They're back on fees and they didn't pay, so they're trying to foreclose. So the seller hired an attorney to avoid the foreclosure. And this has been now in litigation for over a year. And the seller's now to the point where he's been told that there's a court date set and he wants to get the house on the market now. Reasonable. And I said, no, not reasonable. Because have you ever heard of a court date that's been pushed back?
Yeah. About
Like,
4 or 5 times usually. They always
yeah.
have an excuse. Yeah. Yep. So I've got a question with that I just thought of. How much money was owed? And if he really wanted to sell, why didn't he just get it paid and be done with it?
Oh, I have no idea. I don't know the details to that level. But
Yeah.
most people nowadays have enough equity in their house unless they did something less
Yeah.
intelligent, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So really, they could have solved these problems, and that's where it's really important for us to do our
Yes.
equity reviews with our sellers and keep in touch. And they'll tell you the truth. You know,
Mm-hmm.
Craig, we kind of in trouble. We got a home equity line, and
Yes.
then we got an RV and we spent an extra 200 grand. And now the house got damaged by the hurricane, and we're kind of screwed.
Mm-hmm.
We say, whoa, hold on, we can help you with that, but we got to know the problem, and they're not going to come to you and say, oh, by the way, Lavada, I got a problem. But
You
if you,
have to ask the right questions. You've got to ask. You have to start off telling. I start off every listing appointment is, I thank you. I really appreciate for your time and everything, but I'm going to warn you now. I might say something that offends you as we walk through the house. You've got to have the difficult conversations because it's going to make getting to the closing table seamless.
mm-hmm. Yes, exactly, and that's what you want.
Yeah.
Your goal is 100% closing ratio
Mm-hmm.
at all closings, which
Yes.
means you qualify every buyer, you
Mm-hmm.
qualify every seller, you qualify every buyer's agent's buyer that
Mm-hmm.
comes your way, and that's how you get to those marks that make you an expert agent.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
So
so
I got a random thing for you. Just throw this in here.
okay.
So this happened, and I've got a newer agent. So I'm Grace completely her, so I'm not going to say her name or anything.
No.
But if you have a purchase price of $400,000,
Mm-hmm.
you have a loan amount of $32,000, but your financing amount is $315,000. You have a gap of how much money. Everybody needs to answer that in the questions. Your
Yep.
loan amount's 325. Your financing amount though is 315. What's your gap to the 400K purchase price? Because what I'm seeing is that people think that gap is 75K, and it is not. So you've got to slow down and make sure you're reading your pre-approval letters and know what the gap is. Because this brand new agent had been with another brokerage. She's not been taught. She came from Dalton Wade. Nope. She didn't know.
No comment.
Yep.
Right. So your point is the buyer thinks that they have an appraisal contingency in the contract. You could read it to say that there is one, but it really doesn't say there's an appraisal.
No, does not.
Right.
So, yep. Yeah. So if you do anything besides FHA and VA, of course, you've got that addendum. You need the appraisal contingency. Side note again, if you have VA FHA, that addendum covers the appraisal. You don't need a separate appraisal addendum. You want to tell somebody you don't know what you're doing? Check both those boxes and send both those addendums. An experienced agent is going to run you ragged.
Mike, if they don't want to take your recommendations, what I do is I send an email and say, per our conversation, I recommend that you put an appraisal addendum in this contract. And just to confirm our conversation, please reply in the affirmative. Yes, you do not want an appraisal contingency. You got that email and they didn't reply back? Your Honor, look, it's preponderance of evidence that shows that who wins in court.
Yep.
Yeah, so I look a little, I much agree with you 100%, except for you do have an appraisal contingency kind of if up to the loan amount. So if the loan amount is less than if it fits within the guidelines of the lender's profile, then you're good. So if it's 20% down and it fits the loan amount, you're good. But if it's more than 20% down, or if they're borrowing less than what the gap would be, like you said, if the gap is not covered, you need an appraisal contingency to protect your buyer. Unless you know they've got the cash and you don't want to screw up the deal. Right. And that's,
but I think, yeah, and that's something we were talking about yesterday, because just because you have the money to make up the gap, does your client really want to overpay for a house?
Right. And that's a leverage point today, especially with all the inventory market right now. And we need every leverage point we get. It's also leverage can be used against you. So we got to counter both sides of this conversation.
Most definitely.
Yeah. So having those meaningful conversations, and I've been saying this for a long time, having a good relationship with your title agent, having a good relationship, let's say great relationship with your title agent, a great relationship with your premier loan officer, and you guys work like this, and your insurance agent. The three of you need to work really closely together because everyone ties together, right? The title company can chip in and lower fees if they have to make something happen. The insurance broker can choose a different insurance company, get the ratios in line. The mortgage broker could prorate the taxes in different ways. I mean, all with full disclosure. But there's all those pieces come together. So cool stuff. Okay, back to the pending lawsuit real quick. So I was talking to the agent. I said, look, I know you were told that the lawsuit will be answered in 2 weeks, but do you really want to spend money putting a house on the market that is not guaranteed to be on the market? Because what happens when you put a house on the market? You're going to spend some cash, right? How much money are you spending? You're using a Zillow Showcase on like every listing you're taking. Pretty much. That's $400. And you're paying for photographs. That's another $300 or $400. That's $800. You're putting a lockbox, you're putting a sign, whatever else you're spending about $1,000. So, and a listing is an interest-only loan that's only repaid if the property sells. So think of it as a business person. Why would you invest in a house that you don't even know is going to come on the market? Right? So, and then when that goes on the market, since it's been in foreclosure for a year, how much maintenance has been done to that house?
Probably none.
Yeah. So is it spit, polish, and shine? Is it going to show up as the prettiest girl at the ball?
Nope.
No way. So before it goes on the market, he really needs to either lower the price a lot or make the adjustments and replace the screens and do the painting and clean the carpets and make sure it's all professionally cleaned. I mean, you can't do that and put it on the market now. So my advice was list it now, do an MLS waiver of entry, list it for 9 months, give it an MLS waiver of entry for 90 days. You can always shorten it, cancel the waiver of entry, put it active whenever you want. And if it's not done in 90 days, we can extend the waiver of entry too. But it becomes another date you have to watch, right? So it's just when you slow down and think these things through, we can handle any problem that comes our way. And we've got creative solutions for you. And so do your fellow agents. So
Well,
that,
and the whole reason he's saying to go ahead and get that listing
mhm.
is you've
Yes.
secured it now.
Yeah, he can't list to somebody else.
Correct. So get it, do the exclusion, but now you still have the inventory. It's
Correct.
sitting there. Yes.
Yeah, because what you don't know is his niece just got her real estate license last week,
Hmm.
and
Or he's going to run into Fred at the coffee shop and he ain't seen him since high school, and Fred's now a top producing agent.
yep.
Mm-hmm.
Or Fred's a brand new agent and he wants to help him
Mm-hmm.
out,
Yep.
whatever it is. But when the listing agreement is signed, you're
Yep.
good. And the MLS waiver of entry is a friend of yours. By the way, I'm doing the MLS compliance refresh course because yesterday I got an email saying, "Hey, Craig, your MLS compliance refresh course is due in 60 days. So rather than wait 60 days, I'm doing it
Mm-hmm.
now." It's only about an hour and a half, and you can stop and pause whenever you want to. It's not hard to do. And so far, I'm batting 100%. So, and it's really stupid for us because we're going to input the MLS, right? But you still need to know what the rules are, just like having a TC. So you got a TC putting it in for you, but you still need to know what the rules
Mm-hmm.
are. Okay, I'm going to skip this one for now because it might take more time than I want to go into. Okay, here's one. And this is, your answer to this was perfect. Buyer signs an EBBA with us. Buyer signs a touring agreement with another brokerage prior to us. We sell the buyer a house. The buyer agreement that had the buyer's agent had the touring agreement, sends us a referral agreement asking us to pay them a referral because they did so much work before we sold them a house. Remember your answer?
Yes, I said, can you look on that a showing agreement you have and tell me where my name is? And then when she says it's not on it, I'm gonna say, okay, so tell you what, that house over there you've got under contract, can you add me on that contract and I can get paid on it? And she's gonna say no. And I'm gonna say, exactly, that's exactly why you can't touch my money. You want your money, go talk to the buyer because your contract with the buyer, it's not with me.
Ah, that's what I wanted to hear. Your
Yep.
contract is with the buyer, not with me. So when another
Yep.
agent wants to fight you over, hey, well, I had them under contract. Well, good. Then go after them.
Yeah,
I
not my
have them under
problem.
contract too.
No.
Right. And now your buyer signed two commissions. So you got to figure this problem out between you and your buyer.
Mm-hmm.
I've already got them under contract and my name's on it. I'm procuring cause. So I'm going to win.
Mm-hmm.
And you've got a challenge and you could subject your
Yep.
buyer to two commissions, but that's not going to be a very good thing for your reputation.
Another thing I love about these EBBAs is these out of state real estate agents that think they can come to Florida and we're just obligated as agents to stop everything we're doing to go show them a house so they can represent themselves. And up here, we're like, oh, sure, if you want to sign an EBBA, because I'm not working for free. You know,
Mm-hmm.
before you were almost obligated to go show your listing because you had to represent your sellers
Yeah.
and help you. You're not obligated now. It's one
Yeah.
of the best. That's what I love about the buyer agreements. Now someone has to truly fire you before they go and hire Martha over there.
Yeah.
So
And that's why it's really important. We talked about this yesterday.
yes.
We have a clause in .loop that says we want you to add to your buyer broker agreement. It says,
Mm-hmm.
hey, buyer firms are not working with they haven't signed any other representation
Mm-hmm.
agreements for these areas and these price ranges. And you said we should just make that a part of every agreement that we have.
Yeah, it just should already be on there. That way you don't have to remember to add it because you're out here showing you're running 90 to nothing and you're probably going to forget. I know I'll forget. Let's be
Mhm.
honest. Luckily most of the buyers I work with, I have relationships with them. So work your sphere of influence. I'm always going to put that plug in there. Quit trying to chase people you don't know.
Mhm. Victor,
Jennifer's
Victor, that literally just happened to me
It
yesterday.
did. He's the example I'm using. He had a Virginia agent call him. He's like, sure, I'll show it if you sign a BBA. And she's like, I want to represent myself. Well, first off, you're not licensed in Florida, sister. Sit down. You know?
Mhm.
Yeah.
I love
Lord
it.
have mercy. Yeah.
They're
We
out
had
there.
this Texas agent wanting to represent himself. He's 23 years old. I don't think he's ever even sold anything in Texas. Yeah. Yeah, it's a mess.
Lauren said last time I added that clause, it wasn't available. I think we've updated it since then because I changed the word from buyer broker agreement to representation agreement. And Angelique, you probably chat in. Be humble, sit down. Love it. Um, okay, we did that. Okay, we do have time with the other one. So give me a second here.
Okay.
So on Monday, actually, I talked about the sleazy attorney who put one of our units under contract and proceeded to act like he was closing with all this stuff. And then we found out that he actually bought another unit and didn't plan on closing at ours. But his inspections had passed, his loan approval period had passed. He had no out. He was going to forfeit his deposit. It's only $3,500, so it's hardly worth fighting over. But he put up a stink. And on Monday, um, I wrote, I read his complaint, which was a very venomous lawyer legal letter. I'm going to threaten you. I'm going to take you to the real estate commission. I'm going to do all this stuff. And our agent took this very, very personally. And she wrote back. And I just wanted to read her reply to you guys, because if you were here on Monday, you know what I'm talking about. If not, Angelique said it's been updated. Lauren, thank you. Um, this is so good. And it's sometimes you just want to stand up for yourself, right? Because this guy was just so venomously aggressive and wrong. I mean, you don't go under contract with one unit and then
No.
close. No, it's wrong. And he's a lawyer. Then he's quoting the contract, misquoting it. And remember, just because somebody's a lawyer doesn't mean they're a real estate lawyer, right? I called Danny. Danny's a title insurance lawyer. I know, I don't want to say I know more than Danny, but I know as much as Danny does when it comes to real estate related law. He's got more on the technical side. But then there's lawyer, family law lawyers, and there's medical lawyers, and there's insurance lawyers. And just because you're a lawyer doesn't mean you know real estate, right? Just because you're a doctor doesn't mean you can operate on hearts, right? You have your specialties. So anyway, I'm going to read this kind of fast. With regard to, let me move it over to the screen so I can look more at you guys. I'm not going to share the screen though. With regard to the allegations and threats as set forth by the attorney, I hereby represent the following evidence to substantiate that there was no misrepresentation nor favoritism played in this transaction. Neither myself nor my broker received complaints of any kind from the attorney, the buyer. In fact, it was not until the seller opted to contest the return of the deposit that the attorney began defamation and threats on my licensure, which he did. The seller became aware that the attorney was now under contract to purchase another unit within the complex and suspected this was likely the reason for canceling the contract rather than the reason cited by the buyer. So the attorney literally lied and made up all these stories and said because he was bought another unit. The seller lost many days on the market and then opted to contest the return of the deposit. Per the listing agreement, the contract with sellers says Century is entitled to 50% of the retained deposits, which it does. So we sent him a cancellation, which is my favorite thing to do. When they want to cancel, say, fine, here's a cancellation form. Surrender your deposit. Half goes to us, half goes to the seller. Have the seller sign it, send it to the buyer. And if they sign it, then fine, they're canceled. Because usually it's not worth fighting over. But don't play their game. Don't try to kowtow to them. Say, fine, done, move on. See paragraph 8E of the listing agreement. And talk because he accused us of trying to kill the deal so we can make half of the earnest money. We don't want half of the earnest money. We want the contract, the commission.
But he also can get in trouble with his license.
Oh yeah,
yeah. He should be extremely careful, especially with the line and it's in writing.
Yep.
Foolish.
Yep. Regarding the accusation of misrepresentation by not extending the loan commitment period, there are several factors we take into account. Now, remember, I was talking to somebody about this yesterday. If I'm the listing agent and we in good faith negotiated a closing date and a loan approval date, and for some reason you need to extend the closing date, it doesn't mean you automatically get your loan approval date extended.
Correct.
So as a listing agent, I don't want to extend the loan approval period because you should have had plenty of time. It doesn't take long to get a loan approval. It really doesn't.
Nope.
Put all your ducks in a row. So we only extended the closing date, and he accused us of misrepresenting him because we did that.
But did he ask for a loan extension date?
No. Once again, he's not a real estate attorney. He didn't know the difference. Well, he could have read the contract.
He should have. He's an attorney.
Up to the point of requesting an extension of the closing date, the attorney had always drafted and submitted his own documents, which I can provide copies. Since he did not provide his own documentation in this circumstance, being a transaction broker and not allowed to put one party's interest ahead of another, I performed exactly as directed and sent the form to the seller for the extension of the closing date. So I asked for. Attorney, the name, had only requested an extension of the closing date. He also indicated in text that the loan commitment was forthcoming. And guys, really, the texts are a problem, but she screenshotted all of her text messages because she saved them, right? Lender said second underwriter approved all my docs with no request for information, but still reviewing the condo docs. Do you anticipate we will have that extension fully signed by tomorrow? Yes, I sent it to you yesterday. Um, and then he said she was compounding the issue by communicating directly with his lender. Paragraph 8 of the contract says
Yep.
the listing agent is allowed to talk to the lender, and the lender is allowed to talk to the listing agent. So he didn't understand that either.
Mm-mm.
She did a great. My point is here, she did a great job of just defending herself.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and
Do
she
you know
quoted
why she was able to do that?
because she
Because
keeps
she knows what the
right.
contract says.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. So she just went on and on and on and on and on. I was just super proud of her, and I wish it didn't have to go that way, but it did. Right.
This industry will turn you into a pit bull, or it will make you quit.
Angelique took an onboarding class the other day, and they said basically, if you can get an agent past 4 months,
Mm-hmm.
they got a shot of staying. If you get them past
Mm-hmm.
9 months, they're probably going to last a long time in that industry. So your
Mm-hmm.
first 4 months are going to be critical,
Yep.
right? And we're not trying to scare you with these events. We're trying to prepare you for these events because this is what happens in real life, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when we tell you to read the contract, like we have been talking about, and I'm not going to do it again today, we've been talking about FF and GG and showing agreements and compensation agreements like every week for how long now?
It's been a year.
It's almost, yeah, August,
Yeah.
August.
Yeah.
It's
It's almost
coming
a
up
year.
on, it's like 10 months now.
Yeah.
And people still don't get it.
Mm-mm.
Chris is like, would you just, Jeff and I have a joke, RTFC, read the freaking contract, right?
Mm-mm.
Read addendum GG, read
Mm-hmm.
addendum FF. Try to make sense of them. They both work in either circumstance, but you don't need them if you have a
Mm-hmm.
compensation agreement.
Mm-hmm.
So if we all played by the right rules, we'd have compensation agreements on from all of our sellers telling a buyer's agent what they're going to get.
And you know what? If you don't want to get a compensation agreement at your listing,
Mhm.
you're messing up right there.
Yeah,
Because when a seller's like, well, I'm not really sure if I want to offer compensation. Okay, well, just so you know, if I bring you a buyer, I'm going to expect to get paid. So why don't we go ahead and negotiate what that number is going to be up front? Because I don't want to have to renegotiate you trying to bring you a buyer. And honestly, I don't know if I want to take the listing if you're not going to pay a buyer's agent, because I don't work for free.
right. And let's
So yeah.
go
So
further.
yeah.
They think you're going to bring the buyer.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're charging your 3% for
Mm-hmm.
representing them and marketing their
Yep.
property. 3% we're going to get from our buyer, but our
Right.
buyer is going to ask the seller to pay it.
Mm-hmm.
That's just
Yeah.
how it's going to work.
Yeah.
So be
Negotiate it up
prepared.
front.
Yep.
And if they say they're not really sure, you need to have a good conversation with them, because they just showed their cards of what they think of you and your industry, that they don't think you're worth the money, because you're not just a listing agent. You're also can be a buyer's agent.
That's
So
right.
you need to take that conversation and spin it back to them and ask them, have you ever gone to work and worked for free?
Mm-hmm.
And they're going to say, no, I wouldn't do that. Then you need to ask them, well, why are they expecting you to do that? Because you're not just negotiating for a buyer's agent coming in. You're negotiating for the potential of you getting a buyer. You're going
That's
to
a
have
great
open
perspective.
houses.
Yep.
Yes. So have the courage to have the rough and tough conversations up front, and know how much money you're worth.
Yep.
That's the biggest thing. And here's my thing. I don't care. You want to make sure you have the right compensation agreement that keeps DOJ out of our contracts. Do your own addendum GG and send your own compensation agreement with
That's right.
addendum GG. Don't wait for theirs. And that's what I've started doing. Instead of asking them which compensation agreement they have, so I know which addendum GG to do, so I don't have to go back and fix it, send your own and send
Yep.
it with the offer.
The only challenge there is you don't know if it's seller's broker paying buyer's broker or seller paying buyer's broker.
But if you send your own compensation agreement that is seller to buyer broker, and you cut out the other one, they can sign it and make them modify their listing agreement. That's not your problem.
There you go. Oh, I love your attitude.
Yeah, I got too much to do, and these agents out up here, they don't answer. I can't even get them to read documents on MLS. We got a house right now that before we show it, every time we have to ask the agent, "Hey, did you read the documents?" "No, it's a Zillow lead I pay for." Well, you need to go review the documents, because you've got a VA buyer, and this is a cash or a reno.
Yep. Wow.
Yes.
It's
Yep.
well, thank you for sharing your wisdom with us today.
I don't know
Guys,
if it's
we
a
got something out
wisdom
of
or
this.
survival.
Yeah, survival skills is really, yeah. I love your Cinderella car seat in the back seat, by the way.
Oh, hold on. You got to see Puppy Pals too.
Oh gosh.
Yeah, rotten children. Yes.
So I guess you don't put buyers in your car.
No, no, most of mine want to follow me. I have a
Mhm.
Suburban. If I'm showing and they want to ride with me, I take it. So
Right.
this is my around town, save some money. It's my Tesla.
Oh, cool. All right. Well, it's 9:30. It's Friday. So let's have a happy, safe weekend. Hey guys, things are happening out there. Don't listen to the bullshit in the market.
No, get off social media unless you're making a post. I'm serious. The busier I am, the less I see on social media, the less I feel like, oh, I don't have enough. I'm no, forget all of that. Stay so busy building your business that you don't have time for the noise in the background because houses are closing and they are selling every day.
Yep. And if you didn't see the class yesterday with AI, I don't really understand AI. I don't do what you guys do, but Jimmy and Chris really did a nice job, or Jimmy especially,
Oh, yes.
did saying, hey, just start out the week. Hey,
Mm-hmm.
AI, print me 5 social media posts and got really drilled down into the
Mm-hmm.
details and make that post, schedule them to go out,
Mm-hmm.
and then you're done for the week.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And all you do
100%.
is check and
Yep.
make your replies to the people that comment on your stuff. But you
Mm-hmm.
don't have to spend 2 hours a day on social media prepping and doing shit.
No.
You can do it all in one day. AI will write a lot of the content. You can go
Mm-hmm.
personalize it for your own self. You could even AI could even put graphics in there for you.
I
So,
just have one request.
mhm.
Do not use AI to
Oh yeah,
find
MLS.
the value of your property. That I'm like, hello, Zillow.
Yeah,
That's as bad as Zillow. These ads, I'm like, seriously, you think an app can tell you what your house is worth? No, it cannot.
nope,
It's
no.
yeah.
And the amount of agents that price houses while you're looking at them just blows my mind.
No. Yes, no. You want to look like a fool? Go list a house with the purchase price and you've never stepped foot in it.
Mhm. Hey, what's
Or
your opinion when Zillow now? You don't know because on Showcase they don't
no,
give.
I sent it to you. I'm the
Oh,
one that told you about
oh,
it.
holy shit, that
Yeah,
pisses me off.
what I want to do is ask all these Zillow agents that are buying leads why you're not calling Zillow telling them what the offer needs to be because every one of them is under the purchase price.
Yep,
And you're buying leads from Zillow based on some false information and every one of your buyers is going to want to come in and underbid everything.
yep.
So all anybody buying Zillow leads needs to be calling Zillow telling them to get that crap off because they're hurting your game.
Well, I talk to Zillow like 3 times a week, and I've already brought it up with
Mhm.
one. The next two
Yep.
I'll talk to next week.
Yeah.
And yeah, I agree with you. That just
Well, you can tell them I won't be using Zillow Showcase so they take that crap off because I feel like they're trying to use it to bully everyone to use Zillow Showcase.
that's not true because they don't want any more than 9% of the market using Showcase anyway.
They're saying that, but they're calling multiple agents up here and selling it to them. So I don't believe them, but that's my personal opinion.
Well,
So
they only have 3% of the Tampa market, for example, covered.
we've
So
they've got a good amount up here. So, but I mean, to me, that's just not cool. You don't do that.
no, it's wrong. I
It
mean,
is definitely wrong.
and then how about the stance where they came out and said, if you are going to, Compass started this whole thing with
Mm-hmm.
we're going to hold it interior office listing only for
Mm-hmm.
7 to 10 days.
Oh yeah.
And Zillow said, "Oh, bullshit. If you don't put it on
Yeah.
within 1 day, we're never going to put it on Zillow." So
Yeah, but
you'll,
have you ever like listened to the Compass guy talk?
Mhm.
Yeah, I couldn't listen. I wanted to get up and leave the room. He's lucky I was trapped. I was at the NAR convention last year in Boston, and he was the most arrogant individual ever.
Robert Refkin.
Was not impressive. I was blown away at how he just badmouthed everybody
Yeah. Yeah.
and how many unethical things that he said.
Oh, yeah. And
Yes,
this whole thing about,
blatant, blatant.
yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Now there's this whole thing called Houseo. I don't know how I got on their email string, but almost every day I get an email saying Zillow is going to become the nationwide MLS. And it's this
Mm.
whole scaremonger thing
Mm-hmm.
about what's going to happen. And oh God, it's just, guys,
Yeah.
just bullshit baffles brains. Just
Yep.
follow what we say. Have communications with everybody, as many people as you can a day. Real
Mm-hmm.
estate based conversations,
Yeah.
right?
That show your value.
Yep.
You have to know your value. You have to know what you bring to the table. And when you can let your clients see your value, you won't need to buy leads. You want to know why? They are screaming to everybody and anybody to use you.
There
My
you go.
business is based on the sphere of influence. So nobody can tell me it doesn't work. If you hustle for your clients, you will not starve.
That's right.
But
Awesome.
Can't sit at home doing that.
It's perfect. There you go. All right. It's a little bit over time. Thank you for your time this morning.
Anytime.
Very good.
All
All right,
right,
guys.
bye.
Safe weekend. Happy weekend. Happy Friday.